will offer this as a recording later on. So really quickly, as my partner Jeff was mentioning, we will have access to the PowerPoint slides that we will be sharing today, and those will be down in the chat box. But again, for me and my partners at Women in Need, we want to welcome you to our presentation today. My name is Tiffany Storm, and we're going to dive right in. I am an education specialist for Women in Need. I've had the privilege to serve Hunt County and all of its surrounding school districts for the past 2 years. I have a son and a daughter, and we live here in Hunt County, and love to support these communities in any way that we can. So it's a passion of mine to continue to educate everyone that we possibly can. We work particularly with 6th through 12th grade students, and to create community awareness too in other areas. So we're excited to be a part of today's presentation. I want to quickly introduce to you the presenters for today, my colleagues and friends from Women in Need. First and foremost, I'm going to introduce my friend hnelson. She is one of our legal advocates for Women in Need, and she currently has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Texas A&M Commerce. She also holds a master's in child and adolescent development. I'm sorry. And so I'm going to throw it to Haley to introduce herself. Go right ahead.
Hi everybody, my name is Haley, and I hope everyone's family is safe and healthy during these crazy times. So I'm a legal advocate for our Hunt County office. I've been with Women in Need for a little over a year now. But before that, I actually went to Texas A&M Commerce, so go Lions. And I just really love what I do. I really enjoy getting to see the growth of men, women, and children when they first come to us to whenever they're done receiving our services. And I'm really excited for today, and I'm really excited about this new connection that we're making and supporting each other. So thank you all for being here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Haley. Next, I would love to introduce you all to another one of our legal advocates. She is our Director of Legal Advocacy at Women in Need. She has actually been with our organization for 8 years. She started with us working at Women in Need as an intern for social work. And really quickly, I would just love the opportunity to introduce you to Sadie Velez. Go ahead, Sadie.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad you guys joined. Like she said, my name is Sadie Velez. I'm the bilingual advocate here. It's a pleasure for me. It's an honor to serve and see the transition of many people when they come in crisis to us, and all of a sudden we see the transformations and all the things that after they know about us and our services, and they want to do this for themselves. It's great to see all that changes in their lives for the best. So I love what I do. Again, I started years as an intern, and 8 years later, I'm still here because I have the passion to do what we do. So, and especially with the great team that we have. So I'm glad you're here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. And you do have such a passion to work with these people and their families, and it's just a blessing to watch. Lastly, I would love to welcome my partner, Jeff Landers. He has his career has been in pastoral ministry. He holds a doctorate degree in pastoral ministry, and I want to throw it to him to introduce himself and a little bit about what it is that he does for us at Women in Need. So Jeff, please take the floor.
Good morning, everyone. So glad that you are with us for this meeting today. It really is my privilege to spend this time with you and with my colleagues. As Tiffany said, my name is Jeff Landers, and it's my privilege to serve as an education specialist with Women in Need, specifically working with 6th through 12th grade students in Rockwall County, teaching social and emotional learning principles, and also helping high school students think about what a healthy dating relationship is and what it is not. I guess my main claim to fame is I am married to my beautiful wife, Becca. We will have been married this summer for 17 years, and we are blessed with 7 children. We were foster care parents in the state of Kansas. 4 of our kids came to us biologically, 3 through adoption, and I like to tell everybody that my wife works way harder than I ever will. And then maybe just one more thing, kind of a connection to Texas A&M University Commerce. My dad is a graduate of Texas A&M Commerce and actually finished up even before it was Texas A&M. Back in the days, it was East Texas State University. And so kind of a neat personal connection for me to your campus and to who you are as students there. So again, thanks so much for being willing to have us, and look forward to spending this time with you today.
And
So,
Jeff,
yeah.
I have a quick one thing I wanted to add to everyone today. Again, as you've been joining, welcome. We're so happy that you're here. Before we dive into WIN's mission, Women in Need, what it is that we do, what services specifically do we provide, and what does that look like for you? Jeff's going to cover that in just a moment. But before we get started, I wanted to let you know that down in the comments in our chat box throughout our presentation today, if you have any questions whatsoever, we're going to be honored to answer those. We're going to take some time throughout or at the end, and we want to address any and all questions that you may have in regards to any of the topics that we share, in regards to the resources that we provide. So just know that that option's available for you, and we'll be keeping an eye on that as we move forward. So thank you, Jeff, for that, and I will let you take it away.
Very good. Okay. All right. So what we're about as an organization, our mission statement, we believe together that every home, every family should be a peaceful place. So next slide, Haley. So we come alongside those families that have been broken apart by some type of family violence or domestic abuse. Our aim is to provide shelter to victims and survivors of domestic abuse and family violence, then to work with those families to help them to better understand some of the challenges that they face, and then to offer those families some viable solutions that will hopefully get them back to being the peaceful home that we believe every home should be. And so with that mission, it really is our intentional effort as much as we can to eliminate family violence and domestic abuse from occurring in the counties in which we serve. But also this, and Haley, if you'll go to the next slide, we want to together create a movement in which we no longer tolerate the abuse of power by any violent or non-violent means. So again, that's what we're about. That's our mission as an organization. So I'll throw things back to Tiffany to continue on with our presentation.
I'm sorry, guys. I did that so there wasn't any distractions. I apologize. I hope you guys were doing well at reading my lips. But I wanted to say just again, thank you, Jeff, and that I was answering a chat in the chat box, a question. So keep those coming, guys. Really excited to be able to interact with you in that way. But we're going to move quickly into beyond what our mission is. What are the services that we provide? And so to do that, I'm going to throw it to Haley and have her kind of talk a little bit about everything that we do here at Women in Need. Thanks, Haley.
All right. So WIN offers a temporary emergency shelter. It has a maximum bed capacity of 40. Each client gets an individual client plan that aims to assist them with finding housing, finding employment, childcare, and providing medical resources. We also have a child advocate that is in the shelter that works with the children. She assists them with homework. She does kids group during the school year. And then during the summer, she does kids camp to really just keep them involved. She also does child and parent interactions as well. So the goal of the shelter is really just to provide more than just a roof overhead, but to provide support and strength to these hard times that they go through. All right, so WIN offers legal services. We assist people with applying for protective orders. We work with the Hunt County Attorney's Office on those. We also work with Legal Aid. So Legal Aid comes out to our office in Greenville the first Monday of every month. to assist people with divorces, custody, modification of custody, and protective orders. We also assist people with applying for Texas Advocacy Project, which is a pro se program. So they represent themselves, and we work as a middleman between the attorney and the client. And then we just provide legal resources within the community. And then we have support group. This is one of our really big services that we provide. We really take a lot of pride in it. So I'll start off and then Sadie's will finish up. So I do a group on Thursdays from 3:45 to 4:45, but I also have a group on Tuesdays from 12:30 to 2:30. That group is an advanced group that is focused on parents that have CPS involved in their life. So a part of their safety plan is that they have to attend domestic violence classes. And so in that, I have a specific curriculum that focuses on self-care, positive parenting, domestic violence 101, things like that. So Sadie's, if you want to take it from here.
Yes. Another services that we provide is the hotline services. It's a 24-hour hotline that you can call at any time. If there's a crisis, if you have to leave, if you need shelter, there's somebody always there in the phone ready for your call. Not only via phone, but if you cannot call, you can text and somebody will respond to you as quick as possible. So this is a great service for students, for people that are inside of the unhealthy relationship or even outside. So it's a good one. Next slide, please. We also have 4 shops that we are blessed to have because some people donate a lot of great stuff to us. And what we do with that is we collect them, we pick up, we schedule pickups to make it easier for the donors. And what we do is we resell those items. We have 4 stores actually, one in Quinlan, in Greenville, a boutique in Rockwell, and also in Commerce. So if you guys want to shop, good things for short price or less price, it's perfect because all those funds go directly to the clients, and that way they can receive the services for free. So it's a great way to serve. So if you know somebody or want to donate, you are more than welcome to contact us. Next slide, please. Also, we have education, which is part of what Jeff and Tiffany does. They go to different schools. Like, for example, for us, we do support groups already for people that are in crisis. So what they focus more is on students, little kids, in high school, middle school, even in elementary, to do some prevention education. That way they learn early, starting early in these relationships, they can learn tips and written about red flags and all these things to prevent getting into an unhealthy relationship. And I have to add, we have been blessed to receive moms or clients from kids handing paperwork that they give to them, saying, "Mom, I think you need to go to this place. They need you need their help." So it's been a blessing to see that how their prevention education helps even for the long term. And now I think, Tiffany, I'll give you the microphone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So yeah, and I love this. We do have the opportunity to go into high schools and to speak with young adults and starting and yeah, at the younger ages as well, and really try to build a foundation. And prevention education, we're so passionate about that so that we don't find these families that are broken apart later in life by unhealthy dynamics and relationships. I also want to acknowledge the situation that we're all in right now with this pandemic and COVID-19. And again, we hope that you and your loved ones are well. We also know that this sort of situation can really amplify if there are issues that are happening in unhealthy dynamics and relationships when you become more isolated in situations like this. And, we're really happy to address some of these things that you can be looking for. A lot of what we do on a daily basis, Jeff and I, are go into these high schools and really try to teach students about the dynamics in red flags versus, healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships. And it was interesting to me as we had this opportunity to come and visit with you guys This has been a real treat because this is truly where those two worlds merge. The people that we're dealing with in crisis, like Sadie's mentioned on the other side. And then we're also talking about after you come out of high school, where do you find yourself? And it was interesting to me, the statistics that came out of this. You know, really quickly, I want to just ask a question. If you are a student on college campus, we're going to do a quick poll. And I'm curious to know if you or someone you know, before we dive into these statistics and the reality of maybe some of the things that you have seen or faced at any point in your college experience, but have you or anyone you know ever experienced dating abuse or dating violence in a relationship while in college? Okay. And so if you would, if you could just answer, these are anonymous polls, yes or no. We're going to give this about 30 seconds for you to answer. And again, these are anonymous, but we do want to just create some awareness here of how big of an issue, you know, this may be. So, Haley, are you seeing the results on your end?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We're about 70% complete on that.
Okay, so we'll give it just another second here before we dive in. But, you know, I found these statistics to be really staggering, and that this is a massive opportunity to really begin to educate and create more awareness and more resource to the young adults that are here on college campuses to understand really what building these foundations for healthy relationships for their future, the impact that it can have on your life as a whole, but also the prevalence that it's actually occurring. So let's see, is there any way that you can share those results with us, Haley?
So from the people that joined the poll, we had 23 yeses and 9 no's. So that's 72% yeses and 28 no's.
Okay.
28%.
Fantastic. And so thank you for all of you that participated. You know, that's a pretty staggering statistic just in us that are here on this webinar today. So 70 to 30 just in the experiences based on the people here. Now, if you'll notice, we did not give you any specifics on what dating abuse or violence even looks like. We will shortly. But this is based on what you know to be dating abuse and violence, and that can be different for everyone. But really quickly, what we do know, these statistics have come from loveisrespect.org, which is a nationally recognized map. It's a great resource. And also breakthecycle.org. These are fantastic domestic violence resource centers. And so if we could go ahead and go into the next slide there, I'd like to go ahead and share some of these statistics with you. So the reality is, guys, 43% of dating college women report experiencing some violent or abusive dating behaviors, including physical, sexual, tech, verbal, or controlling abuse. Okay, so this is 43% of the women that are actually in dating relationships. That's a large number. Okay, could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, over 1 in 5 college women, which is 22%, report actual physical abuse, sexual abuse, or threats of physical violence. So these are going to be all women across college campuses. This is pretty intense, right? 1 in 5 have reported that, whether they're in a dating relationship currently or not. These are all college women across the board. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, more than half, which is 57% of college students that have reported being in an abusive relationship said that it occurred in college. And I want you to take note here that there is no discrimination when it comes to abuse. These are men and women that are reporting in the statistic here, and that this has happened to them in college. So we find ourselves in an interesting dynamic at this age. We are finding our independence. We are figuring things out and navigating the world on our own. So it can be a very, we're very vulnerable to relationships and what that looks like for us, and how do we navigate that? Can we go to the next slide, please? 52% of college women report knowing a friend who has experienced violent, abusive dating behaviors before. 52%. So that statistic in that poll that we just took recently, we can tell that that's pretty accurate. What we see is that there are a lot of people that have either experienced or know someone that is going through challenges such as these. And again, we're going to dive into what that might look like so that you're able to better identify it. And then hopefully we'll, by the end of this, allow you to have some comfort in the resources that are available to you. But at the end of the day, this is a hard place to be in when you may know someone or a loved one that's experiencing abuse. And this is a pretty staggering statistic. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? How do we get out, right? This is a tough question to answer. And I think the next statistic you'll find is even more sad. Can we go to the next slide? That more than half of all college students, again, this is men and women in those dating relationships, 57% say that it's difficult to even identify what dating abuse is. Okay, and next slide. And 58% of them say that they don't know what to do to help themselves or even their friends to leave an abusive relationship. 58% of college students, okay? So if they don't know what to do, then they stay. And there's a lot of reasons why people stay, but we want to hopefully help provide some solutions and some information that can empower people to find themselves in a better situation, to not only help themselves to create a healthy, happy lifestyle, but also to help those around them. I think the more that we really bring peers together through education and knowledge and create that empowerment between them, that number one, they're not alone, as you can see by the statistics, but number two, that there are resources and communities available to help them through these processes. And so that's what our hope is today. And can we go to that next slide, please? I think we're, oh yeah, here's one last one. That the 38% of college students say that they don't know how to get themselves or their friends on campus. They don't know how to find resources on campus. And I'm so glad I've forgotten about this one. I want you to know that we are so honored today to be here because of Elizabeth, and she's the victim outreach coordinator, and I have to remember the title, the Campus Life Student Development. We are so blessed to have the opportunity to be with you guys today because of this resource, because of the university's desire to be able to help you to find the resources that you need and to connect you all with those. So it's our honor and privilege to be here, but also just a big thank you to the resources that you all have there at Texas A&M and Commerce available to you. And I want you to know that hopefully throughout our time together now and in the future, that you'll be able to be more connected to those resources and that we can do something together to lower these statistics. Okay, next slide, please. Lastly, one of the things that we talk about a lot in dating abuse is digital dating abuse, and most people don't realize what this is. So I just want to quickly give this a definition for you. As we kind of talk through some of the other types of abuse, we may make mention of this, but this is something that's becoming more and more an issue on college campuses and in relationships such as these. And digital dating abuse is any use of technology or social platforms in an attempt to bully, harass, intimidate, or threaten anyone in a dating relationship. And sometimes when it comes to digital abuse, what we're seeing is because this is a common theme in all of our relationships, right? Here we are today using these platforms and technology, and they are a beautiful, wonderful way to connect. But what I think we miss a lot of times is that they can also be a way and another, just a different way and a different tool that some people unfortunately use as a type of abuse. And so we want to make sure that especially college students are really aware just how different abuse can show up in your relationships. Okay, next slide, please. 1 in 3 dating college students has given a dating partner their computer, email, or social network passwords, and these students are more likely to experience dating abuse. So the reason that we wanted to sit with that definition for a second, because we want people to be able to recognize, am I putting myself in a vulnerable place to experience, you know, different forms of abuse? What we know too is that abuse can a lot of times escalate, right? So what may feel as though it doesn't feel like abuse at all if it's in the form of digital dating abuse, sometimes that may begin to escalate. And we're going to talk about this a little bit further as we move forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so as we dive into what does dating and violence actually look like? What does it look like, and how does that apply to you as college students and staff on campus? How can we begin to recognize it for ourselves and for those around us and support people in these positions? I want to turn it back to my friend and colleague and someone that knows this better than anyone on this call today, and that is Miss Sadie Spelez. Are you there with us, sweetie?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
going back to that slide, what is abuse? Sometimes when the ladies or when whoever comes to our offices, let me just make this note. We also serve women uh, and men and kids, anybody. I know our name is Women in Need, but we serve men as well. So just wanted to make sure that you guys know that. But when our clients come to our doors, most of the time they're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm not being abused. It's just, they minimize it or they don't know. They think that because they don't have abuse or because they don't have a mark in their face or they haven't been physical, they think that this is not abuse. But one of the great things that we use, and this is the great tool that we use, is the power and control wheel. This one specifically, we found that it's the college power and control wheel because it's many things that could be happening to the college students, right? And this is a great opportunity for these people to see red flags. I mean, this basically is our red flags to see how risky it is because domestic violence or abuse is basically not necessarily has to be physical. And that's the thing that we educate them in support groups. We see people from outside, we see people from the shelter. I mean, it's open to anybody. And really, it's just basically educating ourselves and yourself to know what domestic violence really is. Not only physical, it could be mental, emotional, social, psychological, economic abuse, even spiritual abuse. But the one thing I want you to see right now it's this will represent the patterns and behaviors of these abusers, right? Again, like Tiffany said, um, abuse doesn't discriminate. It can happen to young, to older, to rich, poor, black, white. It doesn't matter. It could be somebody educated, not educated. So it really doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anybody. So these are the things, and let me share them with you real quick. How the patterns of this abuse this is a great tool because when we mention this to the people that we see, it starts kind of like hitting and say, oh, wow, I'm going through that. And if you see all this is basically emotional abuse. It's not even talking about physical or sexual abuse or any of those. Because like Tiffany said, it escalates to the worst, right? So, but it starts with emotion. And many ladies in the group have mentioned, wow, I mean, when they realize what they've been through and the consequences of this abuse, they're like, oh, wow. I mean, sometimes physical, it's nothing because the bruise can heal in 2 weeks. But what do I do with this emotional? Everything that is stuck in here for years, right? And let me tell you this, in group settings, we see people, my youngest has been the 16-year-old child, and the oldest has been an 89-year-old woman. And I love that dynamic because from one corner to the other, the young one can see the most adult and say, wow, he has been in an unhealthy relationship for 30, 40 years. Wow. It's early to say, no abuse, right? And the old one can say, hey, look at me. I've been through this. You don't have to go through this. So it's very cool, these settings, because everything is private, everything is confidential. I mean, I've never, knock on wood, so far have had any judgmental people. I mean, everybody that comes to our groups, they know what they've been through. We know what's going on. They're just kind of like, I mean, humbled and in crisis in the worst moment of their life. And we don't make anybody talk. They don't have to talk. But just by being there and listening and getting into, wow, I'm 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 learning. I'm learning things. It's not about my age or whatever. It's I'm learning things that I can apply. And again, the great thing about this transition is seeing that they are saying, I want this. I need my life back. I need that power and control of my life back. Yeah, that's a great opportunity to learn. So let me tell you a little bit about these things. The emotional abuse side, for example, in this wheel, it says how they put you down. Or actually, if you can write on the chat, what is emotional abuse for you? If you have any questions about this, please ask, and I'll be happy to answer. But you know, did you know that abuse is more than physical? I mean, all these things are very clever. For example, on this emotional abuse, it says putting you down, not letting you study or do assignments, keeping you up all night before an exam, calling you names, making you feel guilty for things that are not your fault, right? So it goes into many things that it's kind of like manipulation and making you feel guilty, making you feel less than what you are. And sadly, we see a lot of that. We see mostly everybody goes through emotional abuse. The next one that is very important is isolation. Deleting contacts from your phone or email, keeping you from roommates, family, and friends, stopping you from joining organizations or clubs, encouraging you to stay with him or her over breaks, and using jealousy, right? So, again, isolating you from people that you love, the activities you do. And that's when we lose ourselves. So, that's why another topic that we talk about a lot in group is how to get back that self-esteem, that power over your life, getting back to your normal routine, what's normal for you. Most of the people that come to our doors, sometimes, to be real, they're like, I have no idea what do I want to do. I have no idea where do I want to go. I have no clue. And the great thing is, before they make any decision, what we say is, come join group. Come join group, and when you start learning all these things, then you can make right decisions. And believe me, we see people even that are still in a relationship, in an abusive relationship, or the ones that are ready to leave, or the ones that just left. So it's just a little bit different for everybody, but it really gives them a perspective of learning first before they take their own decisions, right? We're just a resource. So it's pretty cool how they, the thing that they do know, it's what they don't want anymore. They probably don't know what they want, but they know that they don't want more abuse. They don't want one more word coming out of their mouth. They don't want one more hit. They don't want any of that negative stuff, right? So this is the cool thing that we go with them and we talk about all these topics: intimidation, minimizing the abuse, using technology, as we explained, economic abuse, and all these different topics. Besides, we also talk about red flags, about boundaries, how to get into self-esteem, and how to, healthy versus unhealthy. So all these great things we learn, again, not in a judgmental way, it's just a matter of educating them and learning that there is a better life that can be free of abuse. So again, everything is confidential. You're more than welcome to join. Right now, because of all this pandemic and crisis, we're doing groups via online, like with Zoom or via phone or anything like that, because our offices are still, we're taking precautions, but we can do them. As in, normally we have Tuesdays at 11 a.m. and Thursdays at 3:45, besides the CPS group that Haley does. But if you want to join, all you have to do is call and contact one of us, and we'll get you in. But again, we can accommodate you. If you cannot make it those days because of work or college or something, we can do them through the phone. So now I'll let Haley continue with the rest.
All right, thank you, Sadie's, for that. So next I wanted to talk about the escalation of abuse. So this is an activity that I do in group, really particular to my advanced group in my domestic violence one-on-one session. So the idea of this is to show that abuse is an escalation. It normally doesn't start with physical and sexual. It normally starts with mental and emotional, and then it escalates to physical and sexual. Now, everyone's situation is different. I have had someone tell me that it automatically went to physical and sexual, so it is different to every situation, but majority, it starts with mental, emotional, psychological, financial, and then it escalates to more criminal activity. So in this activity, I would love your participation. So I'm going to ask questions, and if you could give me some answers in the chat, that would be great. So just to start off, I was just hoping if people can give me an example of what mental abuse is. So we'll just take a few seconds. And Tiffany, if you could read those out to me, that would be great.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Insulting a partner, putting you down when you're treated inferior, belittling.
Okay, yeah, all great examples there. So, you know, another form of mental abuse is gaslighting. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but it's when someone else is making you feel like you're crazy. You're the reason why you did that. They did this particular activity if they physically abused you. So now, if I could have people give me some examples of what emotional abuse is.
Making you feel guilty.
Yeah, yeah.
Ignoring you.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Using your past against you. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Belittling again. I like how that was a repeated answer, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those go hand in hand. Comparing you to others. Avoiding parents.
Yeah.
Name calling, manipulation, rolling their eyes when you talk. Good job, guys.
Yeah. So yeah.
Lots of great answers.
So, you know, isolating you, manipulating you, I do see that one. And really just lowering your self-worth to where you are at your most vulnerable state and you feel like you don't have anybody there. So you stay because you feel like this is the only person that you have. Okay. So next, if people can give me some examples of physical abuse.
Hitting.
Yes.
Spitting. Pulling hair.
Yes.
Pushing. Kicking.
Yes. I
Choking.
did. Yes. And that's a very serious one.
This one's powerful. Leaving marks where no one else can see them.
Yes.
Using fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did see a question in there that asked if mental and emotional go hand in hand, and they are similar. Just like psychological abuse, they all go hand in hand. And we'll talk more about how emotional is involved in each abuse. So yeah, all great examples of physical abuse. So now can you please give me examples of sexual abuse?
Rape. Touching.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Yes, that is a form.
Forcing themselves on you.
Mm-hmm.
Grooming.
Yeah.
Too rough. So taking it too far. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, really pushing your boundaries, not gaining that consent, to unwanted touch, to forced sex. So I don't know if you notice here, we have the diagonal line and we have the horizontal line. So the reason why physical and sexual are on this horizontal line is because those are criminal activity, criminal behaviors, and those are illegal. Mental and emotional aren't illegal, but they do just as much damage, if not more. So I was wondering if you can answer this question for me. Which form of abuse do you think is the hardest to heal from?
Emotional. Sex. Emotional. Mental. Emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sexual.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, those are all great answers, and none of those are wrong. So every single form of abuse is hard to heal from, if we are capable of healing from it at all at times. But emotional is definitely the hardest to heal from for most people. Like Sadie's described earlier, and physical and sexual usually leave those physical marks, those bruises, and the majority of the time they heal. But those internal wounds that we have take a longer time to heal, if they heal at all. They stick with us. Words do hurt, and we do remember those because, like we gave those examples earlier, belittling us, taking away our self-worth, manipulating us, isolating us, those are hard things to come back from. The physical healing our bodies will do on its own, but that mental and that emotional healing, we really have to take the time, and we really have to care for ourselves. And it can be hard if we've lost that support system, if we're isolated from things. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. I know this isn't really an easy topic to talk about, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and can I just I want to interject something I saw in the comments too, and that was that, you know, when you mentioned sexual abuse and someone said, you know, making you feel like you have no choice, and I love that they said that, because it brings light to the idea that sometimes manipulation in relationships, which is a huge sign of abuse or red flag to abuse, is when someone does things that skews your thought process, like, well, if you really loved me, that you would do this. Or maybe they threaten you with leaving if you don't do a certain thing. And so just to keep in mind that that's never okay, and that's actually a form of abuse, emotional and mental, in and of itself. You know, through that manipulation, when it comes to whether that's passing a sexual boundary and trying to get you to do something, or even in other aspects of the relationship. But I thought that was a good point that they brought up, so I wanted to connect those dots. But yeah, great stuff, Haley. Thank you.
Yeah. So next, we're going to touch on the $1 million question. Why do people stay? That is always the go-to question, usually when we do meetings, when we have group, when we do one-on-one with people, they always ask, why did I stay? Most people don't even know why they've stayed. Even police officers, when they go to repeated calls at a home, that is a common thing. Why are you here? Why do I have to keep coming out here? Because it's hard to understand. Well, one reason is the cycle of abuse. So yeah, I see that one comment, and that you do think that's the best that you can do, because of that emotional abuse, your self-worth is at its bottom. You feel like this is all you can have in life. That's a really good example.
And there was a question just before that too, Haley, that I think is important to address, because I think it's something that we can hopefully support and help with, and that is, how do you help the abused or stop the abused from becoming the abuser? And so I think that comes through, you know, a lot of healing and a lot of support and a lot of, you know, walking through that. So I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to add to that, but that's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes we do, in our lethality paperwork, when people come to us, one of the questions is, did your abuser experience abuse as a child? And majority of the time that they have. So a lot of times they've had it in their past, so they become an abuser. I definitely would say groups. I mean, reaching out to a community, becoming involved, knowing that you have a support system and you have a choice. And that's what's really important, is that people do have a choice, and we have to remind them of that and give them their power back. Whenever you're a victim, you have that power taken away from you and you feel like you don't have a choice anymore, but we have to give that voice back to them, and they give them that power and control of their own life again. It's because most abusers, as we talked about in the power control wheel, the reason why they abuse is because of power and control. They want to gain that control back of their life, so they do it in the violent, aggressive way that they know how, because that's all they know. It's been normalized to them. So really just opening up the conversation, becoming aware, doing prevention work like Jeff and Tiffany do is really important in the schools, to teach our kids, if this is happening at home, there are other ways that you can cope. This isn't the life that you should be living. There is more and there is better out there. Like that one comment that we saw, we have to let them know that they deserve more.
Yeah, and I love another another thought that just came through too, and it said in regards to this, you know, or it's something that you want to help them, like we say, because we want to help them, change them, or free them because maybe they're in an abusive house and that's all that they know and accept. So maybe they grew up in an environment where they had parents or a model of behavior in a relationship that was very unhealthy. And so we kind of accept their behavior because we think that we will be the one to change that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes back to that same idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is actually generational cycles. So we will get
Perfect.
there. So this cycle of abuse, so one thing to remember is that this is different per relationship. So this is just ideally, usually the majority of relationships, this is a cycle, but it can vary. So in your situation, you could have 1, 2, and 3 and not 4. But the cycle of abuse, it starts with 1, the tension building phase. So this is where tensions rise. There's a breakdown in communication. Victim becomes fearful and just complacent. So then it goes into the incident phase where there's verbal, emotional, physical, sexual abuse. So this is whenever the anger and blaming and arguing happen, the actual abuse happens. Then we go to the reconciliation phase. This is when the abuser apologizes. They give excuses for their behavior. They blame you. They gaslight you and make you think it's your fault. They deny that the abuse even occurred. Oh, I didn't hit you that hard. I just shoved you. It's not that big of a deal. Or says that it wasn't as bad as the victim claims. And then 4 is the calm phase. So it's also known as the honeymoon phase. So this is wherever they buy you gifts. They try to sweet talk you. They might take you on a date, things like that, things that they know that you enjoy. So why do we stay? We get sucked into this cycle because we love them. We care about them. We let them into our lives. We became vulnerable because we cared about these people. And that doesn't just go away. And when times get hard, it doesn't just go away. We think, okay, it's just a rough patch. We can get through it. They weren't like this in the beginning. And then say, for example, if there is a reconciliation and a honeymoon phase in your relationship, you see that good in them that you saw when you first met them. So that's what you hold on to, the idea of their best self. And so you think the good outweighs the bad. So we can forget the tension building phase. We can forget the incident. It's like it didn't happen, especially if we didn't have those bruises. If they're in places that don't show, we can just out of sight, out of mind. I've had people tell me that there is no honeymoon phase for them, that it's only tension and incident, just goes back and forth. I've had people say there is no tension phase. It goes from calm all the way to physical. So it looks different per person. Okay. So before I go into lack of resources, one thing I want to touch on is another cycle, which is the generational cycle. This is something else that sucks us into domestic violence. As Tiffany was just discussing is, so if you had the generation before you where your parents were physically violent, it can become normalized to you. And same with the generation before that, it's just the norm. So you seek out those types of relationships because that's all you know. One really good way to track these things is a genogram. We use them in groups sometimes. Sometimes I'll do them individually, just depending on the circumstances. But it's a really, really powerful tool to put it on paper and be able to say, wow, this has been a cycle throughout my family line for so long. I want to change it. Once you put that in front of someone's face and they can see that, it becomes they become aware of what's happening and they can make those choices. We give them that choice back. We give them that voice back and they can change from there. All right, and then the last reason why people stay is lack of resources and just lack of knowledge of resources. So one reason why we're here today is because Commerce didn't know about Women in Need, a domestic violence clinic in Hunt County, which is really important to know about, and vice versa. We had never talked to the victims coordinator before at Commerce. We didn't know it existed. We assumed that there are procedures in place, but we didn't know who they were. So sometimes we just don't know what our options are, especially if we've been financially drained. It's easier just to stay in that relationship. It's harder emotionally, but it's easier financially because we don't feel like we have choices anymore, even as victims. So, and one other thing I wanted to touch on is, so with the lack of resources and the lack of knowledge, I've experienced that myself. Whenever I was at Commerce, I didn't know what my options were. And I was in a domestic violence situation. I remember my GPA declined, my social involvement declined, and I was in track and my performance declined tremendously because of the physical abuse that I was experiencing. I couldn't keep up with the training anymore. One thing that really stuck out to me the most is that I went to an event, I went to a basketball game, I was receiving a ring for something I had done in track, so I was surrounded with peers that I see every day. And normally the marks that I had were lower, where people couldn't see, or they just were in places that weren't visible, but I actually had a busted lip that day. And I remember going into it thinking, someone's gonna notice, someone's gotta see it. I want someone to see it because I want somebody to ask me, are you okay? Because then I couldn't lie, and if I did lie, I knew it wouldn't be a good one, so they would press and it would come out. I felt like I needed someone to ask me, I needed someone to show me that they cared, because I was so insecure about myself. I felt like I didn't have a voice. I felt like no one cared about it. It wasn't their problem. It's not their burden to bear. It's mine. And so I go to this basketball game, and not one person asked me what happened. Not one person asked me, are you okay? And that was just devastating to me, because people that I see every day. So this connection here, I think, is really important to change that culture of, it's not my business. I don't need to ask questions. It's none of my business. And maybe you don't know that person, but it is important to show people that you care, to ask them, are you okay? Because that one question can change the trajectory of their life. It could save their life, and it could even save you guilt down the road if something actually were to happen. Because things can escalate quickly, as we saw in the escalation ladder. You know, we see it every day. Commerce has experienced many tragedies recently. So those few seconds that it takes to ask someone, are you okay, are really important and are really vital, and really can give them their voice back. So one thing to kind of wrap it up is just, if you know somebody that's in a domestic violence situation, if you are somebody in a domestic violence situation, please call us or call Elizabeth, the victims coordinator for Commerce. Either one of us would be so happy to just talk to you. I don't know how many people call me just to say, I have a friend in this situation. Can I come talk to you? And just, you explain to me how I can best help them. Even if they're not even the one in the situation, they want to help. They don't want them to be isolated. They want to be that support. So please reach out. Even as a professor, if you have a student, we have that sometimes, and you want to know how to best help them, please reach out to either us or Elizabeth, because I'm sure that you've seen these things in your classroom as well. So before I hand it back to Tiffany, I just wanted to throw it to Elizabeth. I know she wanted to say a little bit, so I will hand that over to you. She's here.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Can everybody hear me, or?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. So I'm Elizabeth Martinez, the Victim Outreach Coordinator on our campus. I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to Women in Need for doing this. I think the biggest thing we've focused on is making sure we make collaborations that are both beneficial to our community and to our students. So big thank you to y'all. They're a great resource for us on campus and for our community. So please make sure to reach out to them and reach out to me if you have any questions in regards to domestic violence, call or anything related on campus, this webinar will be recorded and we can share it with you in the future. So just want to give them a big thank you for doing this because they didn't have to. So we really, really are thankful for you doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. We were supposed to come out and give a presentation in person. We were so excited, but then the virus happened. So I'm really glad we were able to collaborate and do this Zoom meeting and really promote the awareness and bridge this this support and strength for each other. And I know down the road, we've even discussed coming out to Commerce and really putting our faces out there and building that connection a little bit more. So we really appreciate you. And just for the people that watching, I think it's really important to know that you have a school that cares and is really taking the steps to make it a safe campus for everyone and promote, you know, healthy relationships in the university. So that's awesome. Thank you. So then
I have a question.
Yeah.
If Women in Need shelter is full, where would you refer the families to go?
So we will put them up in hotels sometimes if necessary, depending on the situation, depending on the emergency of the situation. And then also there is Safe Tea, I believe at Mount Pleasant. So we do work with them as well. And then we also talk with Dallas. We do have a shelter director that handles all of that. And even with transportation, there's this thing called Families to Freedom. They will give one free ride. So say someone came to us and we didn't have the space, we could set something, and they didn't have a car, we can set something up where Families to Freedom can take them out to a new shelter.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all the wonderful information today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and lastly, you know, as we wrap up here, first of all, I just want to commend you, Haley. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story. I think it just speaks to, and it connects to a lot of people out there. I think in some form or fashion, all of us, if we either have or we will come in contact with someone, if it's not ourselves, that experience some form of abuse. So this is most definitely a huge thing. I wanted to just kind of ask, and if you guys would give us your feedback, you know, number one in the comments, was this helpful for you? Did you guys feel like you gained some knowledge from this? And the other thing is, you know, we would love to continue this collaboration. We would love to possibly create some support groups that are tailored for the university, and continue to provide you guys with additional information and knowledge when it comes to these things, and different topics about creating healthy relationships and knowing how and when to remove yourself from those situations and just really dive deeper into this. And so if that's something that you guys are interested in, we would love for you to just shout it out in the comments or give us a thumbs up to let us know. Did we have a poll for that, Haley, that you, okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Doing it
So,
now.
yeah, we'll just go ahead and throw this poll up there. Maybe that will be the easiest way. But if you guys would just let us know so that we can kind of know how to move forward with this. You know, it's our pleasure, and it's been just an honor to do this with you today, especially in the midst of everything that we have going on in the world around us. To be able to connect virtually is such a blessing. But so, yeah, if you guys would just answer this question for us, we'll take about 30 seconds here as we wrap up. And I, and I love this. We can continue to do Zoom meetings. You know, it's a great way to easily connect. And then maybe in the future, continue to get together even in person, hopefully again someday. Yeah. But, I want to say thank you to my colleagues. And again, thank you to Elizabeth and everybody at the university for helping us to get the word out and make this happen today. We hope that you and your families are doing well, and that you know that we're here for you if there's anything that we might be able to do. So, and I am impressed, may I say, that it is 10:59. So we did an amazing job with that. Haley, how are we doing on the poll there?
73% completed. And I know that we have some professors on here as well. And I know that's also been one of our target audiences when we talk to Elizabeth is faculty and students. So we were really focusing this group for students, but if that is something that faculty is wanting as well, if they're needing that support, that is something that we're also open to as well, because that's our normal community that we touch on with our support groups. So that's also an option. Okay.
And just so thankful for a community that is open. You know, we work really closely with Commerce Middle School, high school, and we've seen some tremendous things come out of those relationships. And so we're really looking forward to continue to partner with you all as well and bring you all the education and support and information that we possibly can to help you guys create the best life. And, you know, I love how Haley mentioned in her story, just really quickly as we wrap up, that being in the unhealthy relationship for her, it affected every area of her life. And statistically, we know that is the case, and that unhealthy, toxic relationships can absolutely affect every area of your life. But the opposite of that is true too. And when we can walk with you through healing and hope and understanding what those healthy relationships look like and how to build that, it can most definitely help you to become the best version of you. And that's our ultimate goal. And it is our passion at Women in Need. So we thank you for that. And thank you to my partners for that. You guys, you know, everything that you shared today was just gold, and I appreciate you. Haley, how did our poll turn out?
It turned out, so 94 yes, 32 yes to a maybe, so 94% yes to 6% maybe. So,
perfect. Well,
yeah.
we look forward to hopefully planning some things for you in the future. So just kind of be on the lookout for that. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys today. We hope that you stay well, stay safe, stay healthy, and all of our best to you. And I think that we'll wrap it up. Anybody else have any last comments?
Thank you.
We're good? Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Have a blessed day.
Everyone.
And I forgot about our, oh, there it is. I was going to tell them they could take a screenshot of the slide, but it was there.